Hi and welcome to Viewfinders. My name's Dargie and I want to take this opportunity to introduce the idea behind the show and give you a sneak peek of the first episode. Before we get to that, let me take a minute to introduce myself so you know who you're dealing with. I'm a photographer from Aberdeen in Scotland. I'm 42 years old, I'm a husband and a father of an amazing 4-year-old daughter. Photography has been a journey that's brought me to some amazing people, places and experiences, and I've photographed everything from businessmen to ballerinas in places from Bridge of Dawn to Brooklyn, New York. I first picked up a camera in 1995 and I turned professional in 2005. I've spent most of my career as a commercial photographer and I started teaching photography in 2009 when I wrote my first Intro to DSLR class, which I taught locally here in my hometown. One thing led to another, and in 2016 I led my first photography tour to the Isle of Skye, and in 2018 I led my first photography safari in the Masai Mara in Kenya. After all this time, I'm still as passionate and curious about photography as ever. And in the podcast, I have conversations with some amazing photographers, some of the best in the world. Each episode, I meet a photographer from a different discipline, whether it's landscape, wildlife, food, advertising, wedding, commercial photography, to name just a few. I trace their journey into photography, as well as gaining an insight into the thoughts, approach and processes that have brought them to be among the best in their field. Each of these photographers' work inspires and challenges me to take the next steps on my photography journey, and I want these conversations to inspire and challenge you to take the next bold steps on your photography journey. Please take a minute to subscribe to the podcast and give it a friendly review. It really makes a difference, especially in the early days of the show. You can connect with me on social media and at the Viewfinders webpage. Links are in the notes below the show. Now, here's a sneak peek of the first episode, my conversation with the incredible Audrey Woulard. Okay, I've got a special round now, and this round, I need your creative advice and input on this because I'm going to choose a photo of yours to ask you about, and you can tell me about the story behind it. And I don't know if there's a shot of yours that has got a particularly memorable or funny or epic story behind it that you can talk about as well. And I was considering calling this round Double Exposure.
I like it.
But yeah, you like it?
I do.
Oh, okay, well, we might still go with that. So for me, I'm looking through your feed and your website, and there's a few shots like this. I think it's sort of a signature shot of yours, but where there's a group of kids or a group of girls and they're in a line, just straight in front of the camera, but they have so much life and good vibes about them. And then the background falls off to this beautiful soft background, traffic is around. Can you tell me a little bit about those kind of shots?
So it's funny. Every time people talk about my work, I'm always like, okay, well, what are they going to choose? And do I feel any personal connection to it? And it's funny you pick that, because if I have done anything in this industry, I think I'm the one that made that shot popular. Is that one. So that kind of came, it came from so many different thought processes, the technical aspect and the posing emotional connection type of thing. So from a really quick technical perspective, if I'm photographing at 1.6, I have to have everyone on the same plane in order to get them in focus. So let's get that all out of the way. When I'm photographing kids that are friends, they like to kind of hang on to each other and, have a little bit of fun and to showcase that experience. I married both of those together to get my love of the technical aspect. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And really get 3 shots in one. So obviously I've got the depth behind them, 2 with the posing and everyone laughing together. But let's say I want to have a group shot, but everyone has their own individual look, like I would do a solo shot. So when you have them all together and no one's smiling, if you notice in the shot, they're all positioned in different ways. And that's really like their own like solo shot with the person. Does that make sense at all? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've seen people redo it, and when they have kids holding hands, and they try to mimic it, but I've never really verbally explained why I do that. And some of them have to be faced in a different way, so that it can be they have their own look, their own individual style within a group of like 10 kids. And that's the best way I was able to do it.
Mm. And so this is something I do at the beginning of a shoot, a portrait shoot. I'll be watching people's body language and trying to take cues from what they're naturally doing. If they have naturally just put their hand in their pocket. Is that the kind of thing you do for that kind of shot?
Yes. So I take two things into account. Yeah, body language, I do that a lot with the littles. So the little kids, I always do that. With the older ones, I look at personality. And in a group of 5, 6, 10 kids, everyone has their own place within the group. If you watch it close enough, there's always a shy one. There's always a very extroverted one. Do you know what I mean? So I typically flip it. So let's say I have the more introverted one. I'll place them in the middle because they need to have that spotlight just for that one shot.
Take the support maybe of the peers as well too.
Exactly. So I typically flip it around because sometimes the more extroverted one can take over the shot. And so I'll put them off on the side because they're going to stick out anyway. So yeah, I look at personalities and I pose I create that body language based on that personality that I see.
Thanks so much for listening. Remember to subscribe so you can be the first to know when the first episode drops. If you want to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Links are in the show notes. Thanks again. Enjoy your photography and I'll see you out there.